would you tell me about your father?
Maman never wants to talk about him. She says it's too hard, but she acts more like she doesn't even care he's gone.
I'm sure that is not the case. It must have been very hard for her, for you both.
I miss him every day. He always knew how to put a smile on my face. I remember how much fun we would have, all three of us. In the summer, Father and I would play hide and seek while Maman read. She always helped me though whenever it was his turn to hide. I would stand in the gazebo, cover my eyes and count, and when I turned, he was nowhere to be seen. Maman would lower her book and flash a look towards his hiding spot. After I found him, he clapped and cheered as though I had won a gold medal. When I was hiding, it didn't matter where I was. He could never find me. I always thought I was an expert hider, but when I think back now, I know he was letting me win. He always said my smile was prize enough for him.
Ah.
He always knew just what to say.
I'm sure he would want you to be smiling today, even under such circumstances.
Having heard his story, I can begin to see why he is so missed. It is a tragedy, the loss of a loving father and husband.
You have been of great help to my investigation, mademoiselle. I will do everything I can to find the culprit and return your bracelet.
Okay. Which I think we already had and knew about. Reach into the fireplace.
Huh.
I suppose this is one such occasion where I must literally get my hands dirty. And here is the bracelet. It was carefully concealed inside a rectangular metal tin. Oh dear. Wait, what? Okay, so... Right, Angeline stashed her keepsakes in the chimney.
Come, my little grey cells.
Right, so it's not these ones, it's this one that's connected. Angeline replaced the photograph.
I must take a different approach if I...
To uncover the truth. I mean, that doesn't make sense to connect that one.
This will not get
But
me
I'm sure
any
it's got to
closer.
be this thing that's connected to something. Oh, someone forced the window open from inside.
I should not be surprised by my own skills of deduction.
Okay. Stage burglary and let it go so far is totally unacceptable. I cannot believe I allowed Mademoiselle Angeline to deceive me for so long, hiding the bracelet inside the chimney and staging a burglary. Part of our calculated and devious plan. I should bring this investigation to an end. Enough of my time has already been wasted, but I will not be satisfied until I know why. I mean, I was thinking that. That doesn't make any sense. Apparently I need to go and talk to Elizabeth. Cassandra became aggressive with Florette and previously mistreated her.
Magnifique.
All signs are pointing to Florette being treated rather harshly by Madame. Would Madame escalate such mistreatment? And connect with the scapegoat.
Things are beginning to become clearer.
Her incarceration appears to be the latest in a series of abuses by Madame. I have no doubt in young Florette's innocence. What I do doubt is the behaviour of Madame Van den Bosch. If what I've heard is true, her treatment towards Florette is disgraceful. Okay, so I need to talk to Elizabeth and Florette. Yeah. Right, Elizabeth and Florette. So let's go and talk to them. So, Mademoiselle Angeline knew that the family was struggling financially, so hid the bracelet so it would be assumed stolen because it was insured. But Madame Cassandra Van den Bosch blamed Florette, despite knowing it couldn't have been her. Oh no, 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 oh no, no, no.
Merci.
I could, but let's finish everything off and talk to Florette. Because we do now know what happened. So let's do this.
anything to show you I didn't do it. And Madame, I need this job, monsieur.
It's not the first time Madame Van den Bosch has taken her anger out on you, is it?
She never used to be such a witch. When the Viscount was alive, she was much nicer. He was the head of the house, he gave the orders, and he treated us right. I would have gone long ago, monsieur, but my family can't afford for me to be picky about my employment.
I was not aware you were supporting your family, and at such a young age.
Papa lost his job at the factory just before he left for good, so Mama had to work even more. I was old enough, so I went to work. When I joined the Van den Bosch house, the Viscount was very kind. I didn't think he would care, but he wanted to help. He gave me some extra in my first pay pack, enough to keep the landlord from kicking Mama out at least. No one had ever been that nice before. I didn't know what to say, but all he wanted me to do was work hard for her. He even let me to go home and visit Mama and my brothers at Christmas, with a food parcel from the kitchen. Mama said she had never seen so much food. It's always been hard for her. Even before he left for good, Papa wasn't around much, and even when he was, we both wished he wasn't. My brothers were too young to remember what he was like, I hope.
Okay, so I had this kind of thought before. Is she like an illegitimate child of the Viscount? And that's why Cassandra doesn't like her? And why he's so very nice to her? I don't know.
When I walked in Mama's house, everything seemed so much smaller. I must have got too used to the size of this house. I swear, you could fit our house in just this lounge. We didn't have much, but we didn't want for much. It was simple and it was home.
The valuables in the house do not determine the love it shares.
Someone should tell Madame that. Not that she'd listen anyways.
Aww.
I will uncover the truth of what happened today, mademoiselle. That, I promise you.
Viscount's kind nature shines through again. His treatment of the staff is quite a contrast from that of the Madames. Well, only one member of staff that we know of. From the way this young mademoiselle speaks of her family, I cannot believe she would risk her employment at the house and put them into an even worse position.
Merci. I shall take everything you have told me into consideration.
Okay. So that's it then, isn't it? We just have to talk to Elizabeth. And share what we have discovered. It's a good thing that Madame Van den Bosch stormed out like that, and so was it Angeline turned around so she wouldn't see us fiddling in the fireplace. Right, let's gather everyone and do the big announcement thingy.
Certainly, officer.
Ready to address the house? I believe it is time the truth behind the missing bracelet was revealed.
You have found the culprit and the bracelet.
Everything will be revealed in good time. Would you be so kind as to gather everyone in the lounge?
As is tradition.
Of course.
Merci, Mademoiselle Elizabeth, for gathering everyone. Will Madame Van den Bosch be joining us shortly?
She stormed past me not long ago, and I have not seen her return.
Oh dear.
Very well. Under usual circumstances, I would wait. But I think we have spent enough time on this matter, n'est-ce pas? We shall have to proceed without her. This morning started like any other. My usual ordinary patrol. Until I was approached by Mademoiselle Elizabeth about a suspected burglary and a missing bracelet.
Indeed.
A crime I've been falsely blamed for.
That I shall come to. I began my investigation outside, but it was not long before I realized there were no signs of an intruder. So I turned my focus to those in the house. You. Florette, your time here at the house has not always been the easiest for you, shall we say.
I do what Madame tells me.
And to the highest standard, I presume.
Madame's standards are very high. I do my best.
Oh.
And you would at least expect fair treatment for the work. not to be spoken to in such a cruel and vicious way.
Monsieur?
I refer to how poorly Madame van den Bosch treats you. You are at her beck and call, and she does nothing but belittle you.
That is Maman you're talking about. Just wait until...
It is nothing but the truth I speak, mademoiselle.
Hmm.
All the while, mademoiselle stands by and does not even notice such cruelty. That must have angered you. Perhaps you thought it was time they deserved some retribution.
Stop trying to put words in her mouth.
I am merely giving her a voice, one that has been silenced for so long.
Oh dear.
Maybe I do think she deserves it. She's had the world handed to her on a plate, and the likes of me get nothing.
A motive begins to rear its head.
You're just trying to get me to admit to something. Well, I've done nothing.
Yeah, we know she didn't do it. Or is this the kind of, I'm gonna say it was you, but psych, it was actually you.
Allow me to finish. I am sure you will want to hear what follows. Let us return to this morning.
From the town of the house. Yeah, you were tasked with... Okay, we'll do it. You were tasked with fetching breakfast from the town for the house.
I was only trying to help.
As any friend would. Even knowing your late return would anger Madame van den Bosch further.
Hang on. This is the conversation for the second question. I thought I clicked on the first. Okay, so you took on an extra task.
But in the matter of the missing bracelet, it gave you a rather solid alibi.
I told you I didn't do it!
There is no feasible way that you could have made it into Mademoiselle Angeline's room while she was present with Mademoiselle Elizabeth, removed the bracelet, and still completed your duties. Which takes us to Mademoiselle Elizabeth. Mademoiselle Elizabeth, you have been with the Van den Bosch family for quite some time now, correct?
That is correct.
You have grown close with both ladies of the house and your fellow members of the house staff, would you say?
Of course. And I certainly hope they feel the same.
But there's still some certain private matters they're not aware of, yet there are still secrets that are kept from them.
Um,
Yeah, this is mean.
You yourself told me Madame van den Bosch would not stand for it, and you would both be out of a job.
Elizabeth? What is he talking about?
A love that is reminiscent of Romeo and Juliet.
N-
One that
no.
must remain hidden from the world from fear of expulsion.
I'm fairly sure they figure it out quite quickly. I'm fairly sure because I think, don't they find him after the big balcony scene? No. I'm sure like they actually know. Which is why they kind of... Yeah, they know. And then Romeo gets exiled for killing one of the Montagues. Is it Montagues? Is Juliet a Montague or is she one of the Capulets? No, I think she was a Montague. I think it's... No, whichever way. But yeah, one of Juliet's family, Romeo ends up killing. So he gets exiled. So then they try and marry Juliet off to Paris. I believe it was Paris. And then she doesn't want to do it, which is why she takes the poison that makes it look like she's dead. And Romeo, not being aware of the plan, thinks she's actually dead, so stabs himself. So yeah, it's kind of well known.
If you don't stop, I will tell Maman. You can't speak to her like that.
It may be a tone you do not like, but it is no worse than your maman's ruling that forced them into secrecy to begin with.
I'm sorry. This isn't how I wanted you to find out.
Yeah, exactly!
We couldn't risk Madame finding out. I don't know what we would do without this house.
Hercule Poirot's a bit of a jerk in this game.
What are you talking about, Elizabeth?
Luke and I, we're in love.
Luke? The gardener? But why wouldn't you tell me?
For fear of Madame and her rule, and if neither of you had employment, there would be no way to pay for a wedding, perhaps.
It was never our plan to go behind yours or Madame's back. You must believe.
We just kind of accidentally did.
You two are to wed?
Yes. Well, no. Not today, as Officer Poirot suspects. Please, it's not what you think.
It is not always what one thinks, or how something may appear. Rather, where the evidence points. And that is to Mademoiselle Angeline.
You can't believe I would hide my own bracelet.
It's the only explanation that remains, but perhaps Florette would be more satisfied hearing the truth from you.
I have nothing to say.
You would rather allow a faithful member of your staff to take the blame for your juvenile and adolescent action. That's a bit harsh. Your accidental fear is nothing we have not all done.
How dare you speak to me like that? You have no idea what you are talking about.
I know that losing a father at such a young age must be horrific and terrifying.
You can't actually believe I would hide my own jewelry.
So,
If you didn't, explain to me how your memento tin with the bracelet inside came to be lodged inside the chimney of your bedroom fireplace.
You have no proof I put it there.
oh, the smudge.
Besides you being the only one in the room alone, even after finding the bracelet, I still did not know why you had done it. Until I contemplated why Madame was selling so many heirlooms and art.
You had no right to snoop through our house in the first place.
I was invited to investigate.
When it is part of my investigation, I have every right, mademoiselle. The unpaid bills and final notice from the telephone company.
Maman can do what she wants with her art. That means nothing.
But when there was no more art to sell, what then? You could not risk her taking your father's bracelet and selling it. So, you staged a burglary pretending it had been taken, preventing her from selling it. Then you stood back as the innocent Florette paid the price.
I mean, to be fair, she was like, oh no, it wasn't Florette, it must have been a burglar.
She didn't think about me at all. She was going to take my bracelet and sell it off. It would have just ended up on some old wrinkly wrist. I didn't think Maman would blame her. I didn't think she would do anything.
But she did. And somehow that evidently didn't cross your mind. When Madame returns, you shall have it all to explain.
Maman can't know what I have done. She will be furious.
But Mademoiselle Florette will be proved innocent. And that is what is important. No crime has been committed, so I see no reason why this should continue any longer. It is time you considered the consequences of your actions.
Yes.
And now, you must face them head on.